I know this might sound unbelievable, but it's the truth. On that day, I had a near-death experience and briefly left this world. But the real miracle isn't just my return, it's what happened while I was gone. During that moment I met Lord Jesus, and he revealed to me something extraordinary about this coming August. Picture this. You're standing in a vast wheat field, where farmers have been planting diligently since January. However, not everyone sticks around until the harvest. Some, consumed by impatience or doubt, give up too soon. They walk away, unaware that August is the pivotal moment, the season of grace for those who endure, and loss for those who abandon hope too soon. I witnessed it all, but I can't reveal everything just yet. There are truths that only those truly seeking will understand. So, I ask you, do you want to know? Are you ready to hear what I saw in that divine moment? My name is Samuel Whitaker, and I'm 71 years old. A few months ago, if someone had asked me about my life, I would have said it felt like my time was running out. I had been in the hospital for nearly a year, long enough to forget the feel of cool wind on my face or the earthy smell of rain-soaked ground. Each day, I lay in this bed staring up at the plain white ceiling, listening to the monotonous beeps of the machines keeping me alive, simply waiting for what every person must inevitably face, yet no one is ever truly prepared for. My illness had taken almost everything from me. I was a mere shadow of my former self, little more than a frail body, a skeleton draped in pale, wrinkled skin. Once I had been a farmer, spending my life connected to the land, the fields, and honest hard work. I wasn't highly educated or well-known, but I lived a life rooted in integrity. I worked tirelessly, loved my family with all my heart, and held steadfast to my faith in God. Yet life has a way of testing us. My wife passed away far too soon, leaving me to carry on alone. The house that once resonated with the laughter of my wife and kids now stands silent and empty. I can't even remember the last time they came to visit me. Maybe they're too busy, or perhaps they assume I'm doing fine. Or maybe, like me, they just don't know how to face someone nearing the end of their life. Over time, I've grown, used to being alone but lying here, waiting with no one by my side. It's a fear I never expected to feel so deeply. I used to believe that God was always near, watching over me. But now I question that belief. If He's there, why does it feel like this unbearable emptiness surrounds me? I'm not afraid of dying, but what terrifies me is leaving this world as if I never truly existed. The hospital has become an unintentional home to me, though it's one I never wanted. Each day feels like a repetition of the last. Nothing changes except that my body grows weaker. I spend my days in this small room, with its cold white walls and stiff hospital bed. The only connection I have to the outside world is a small window, where I can watch life pass me by. I no longer have the strength to go anywhere, but I can still see. I used to have companions here, other elderly patients just like me waiting for the inevitable. We didn't speak much, but their presence was comforting. One by one, though, they left. Their beds would be empty for a while, then someone new would arrive, only for the cycle to repeat. Now I'm the last one left, still gazing out the window, still counting the hours in silence. The nurses here are wonderful. They're kind, attentive, and make sure I'm cared for. They check on me regularly, and sometimes when they see me shivering, they bring me a warm cup of tea. But as kind as they are, they're not family. They can adjust my blanket or wipe my face, but they can't fill the hollow ache in my heart. When their shift ends, I'm still here, alone with my thoughts. I once imagined growing old, surrounded by my children and grandchildren, sharing stories from my past, laughing over meals and feeling the warmth of family. But reality is nothing like what I had pictured. I'm here in this hospital room, white sheets on the bed, harsh fluorescent lights overhead, and a silence that feels eternal. On that day, a fierce storm raged outside. The wind screamed against the window, and the rain pounded relentlessly, like someone desperately trying to send a message. Thunder roared and lightning split the sky, casting brief flashes of light that quickly gave way to an oppressive darkness. With each thunderclap, it felt as though the entire hospital trembled. I lay in bed, too weak now to even sit upright. My body is consumed by a relentless fever, fluctuating between scorching heat and bone-chilling cold. Every heartbeat echoes through me, heavy and labored, as if my heart is fighting a desperate battle to keep going. Deep down, though, I know the truth. I won't be here much longer. The storm continues outside, the rain pouring as though the heavens themselves are weeping. I try closing my eyes, but fragmented dreams keep intruding. Strange visions appear, shadowy figures moving through mist, faint voices calling out to me, and a soft, distant light that remains just out of reach. By the time evening falls, my body feels like it's reaching its breaking point. Pain radiates from my chest, spreading through every part of me, all the way to the crown of my head. I want to cry out, to ask for help, but my lips won't move. My breathing grows shallow and strained, as if I'm trying to pull in the last bits of air this world has left to offer. Then it happens, everything crashes down. The first seizure rips through me, jolting me off the bed, my frail body locking up like a tight wire about to snap. Alarms blare from the machines surrounding me. I hear hurried footsteps, voices shouting orders, someone calling for the doctor, but it all begins to fade. The sounds grow distant, muffled, like they're coming from another world. My body is shutting down, I can feel it happening. My vision blurs, and then darkness takes over. A profound, all-encompassing silence wraps around me, swallowing everything. Then everything stops. I stop feeling, stop existing. I am gone. I have no idea how long I stayed there, completely still, surrounded by unending darkness. Then suddenly I sensed something pulling me away from my body. I opened my eyes, or maybe it wasn't my eyes, but a new sense of awareness. I found myself floating high above, looking down at my own lifeless form. There I was, frail, motionless, lying on the hospital bed. The room below me was a scene of chaos. Doctors and nurses rushed frantically. Someone shouted about losing a heartbeat, and one of them held a white sheet preparing to cover me. But I no longer felt any pain. No fever, no labored breathing, no pounding heart. I felt weightless, as though I'd finally cast off a burden I'd carried for years. A profound peace settled over me, and fear simply melted away. Then, a light appeared before me, unlike anything in the hospital or the dim ceiling bulbs. It was bright yet gentle, encompassing everything around me. It felt like an invitation drawing me in. Suddenly I was swept into it, carried down a long tunnel filled with shimmering lights that danced like countless sparkling diamonds. Images began to flash around me, moving quickly yet vividly clear. I saw myself as a young boy running barefoot through open fields. I saw my mother, her face glowing with warmth as she smiled by the fire. I saw my hands, rough and worn, helping a stranger fix a flat tire on the side of the road. But I also saw my mistakes, moments when I caused hurt, when I let selfishness override kindness. Somewhere in the distance, a sound echoed, not a voice, but a melody that was both deeply familiar and otherworldly. It wasn't music of the physical world, but a flawless harmony, as if each note was formed from light itself. I didn't know where I was heading, but one thing was certain. I no longer belonged to the life I had left behind. I was moving toward something far greater, a truth I had never known before. Time felt strange, like I'd traveled through centuries, yet it all happened in an instant. Eventually, the brilliant light softened, and before me stretched a vast open field bathed in a golden glow, much like the warm light of a setting sun. Wildflowers bloomed in abundance, their fragrance unlike anything I'd ever experienced on Earth. And then, I saw her, Eleanor, my wife. She was standing there, in the field, as if she had been waiting for me for a very long time. She looks much younger than the last time I saw her. No more gray hairs, no more worry lines, but I recognized her immediately by those eyes. A gentle yet serious gaze, just like it was back then. I was stunned. Eleanor. My voice trembled. She smiled. "It's me, Samuel." I couldn't hold back. I rushed. "Xiangba." But when I got closer, I suddenly hesitated. Not because I was scared, but because a wave of sorrow washed over me. How long has it been since I last saw her? How many times have I wished I could say just one more thing to her? Hold her hand a little longer before she left? I bowed my head, my voice choking. I'm sorry, Eleanor." She said nothing, just looked at me, waiting. "You've been too busy with work, with life. You kept thinking that you had plenty of time, but then one day, you left, and I didn't have a chance to say a word. I choked back my tears. You let her feel alone. Eleanor sighed, but not in a blaming way. Rather, it was a sigh of understanding. She stepped forward, reaching out to gently touch my hand, and the moment our skin touched, I felt something strange. Not just the warmth of her hand, but also a deep surge of emotion flooding into my soul. That was forgiveness. "Samuel," she said, gently, "you have loved me in your own way. You know that." I looked into her eyes, and in that moment I knew that she had truly forgiven me, and I began to learn to forgive myself. But then her gaze suddenly became distant, as if she were listening to something that I could not hear. "Samuel," she said gently, "God wants you to carry out a mission. Please do that before we meet again." I blinked, not yet fully understanding the meaning of those words, when a brilliant light enveloped me. It is not the dazzling light of the sun, but a soft, gentle light that envelops me like a warm blanket. I can feel the warmth, but it's not hot. It's as if every cell in my body is being revived, as if all pain and illness have been wiped away. All right. In the blink of an eye, I realized I was standing in a different place. Before me was a vast field stretching endlessly. There is no mountain or fence that limits it. The sky is high and vast, but there is no sun nor any clear source of light, only a gentle glow spreading everywhere, enveloping everything like a soft, luminous veil. The space is extraordinarily quiet. There is no sound of wind, no sound of birds singing, but I don't feel empty. Instead, a sacred, peaceful feeling fills the air. I look down at my hands. No longer are there wrinkles piling up on my skin. No longer are there bony hands trembling from illness. I feel as light as a breeze, as if I could take a step without any effort. Never in my 71 years of life have I felt as peaceful as I do right now. I walked across that vast field, with my heart filled with a sense of both peace and anticipation. Then, in front of me, a strange sight appeared. I see farmers like me. They wear white robes, not made of coarse fabric, but from a lightweight material that almost glows. Their faces are gentle, their gazes are focused, and every gesture reflects their dedication. They work quietly, but no one is in a hurry. Each person has their own plot of land, and they attentively sow seeds in each furrow, as if this is the most sacred task of their lives. I watch the tiny seeds fall to the ground, but strangely, after a period of waiting, they didn't sprout. Right away, I have been a farmer all my life, and I understand the laws of the land, but in this place, a place without the sun, without rain, without the passage of time as I once knew, I wonder, how can those seeds possibly grow? I intended to step forward and ask one of the farmers, but my feet froze. Something told me to quietly observe, to wait. And so, I stood there, watching them plant, watching the seeds fall into the earth, waiting for something that I did not yet fully understand. The seeds lie still in the ground, day after day, with nothing changing. The farmers looked on, eagerly anticipating a shoot to emerge, a sign of life, but the ground remained still. Some people were disappointed. I saw them sigh, bow their heads, and quietly walk away. Some others sat down, staring at their plot of land as if they were wondering whether their efforts were in vain. But there are also some people who are more patient. They keep watering, gently caressing each grain of soil, and I hear them pray. They do not leave. Then a small change occurred. The ground trembled slightly, very softly, like a breath from within the earth. The patient ones smile, their eyes lighting up. But the others, those who only hope to see immediate results, they feel frustrated. "Is that all there is?" I heard one of them mumble. Then they turned and walked away. Quietly, the field grew emptier. On the third planting, the remaining farmers continued their work. But not all the seeds could endure. Some seeds wither away, from lack of water, as no one is there to take care of them. The farmers, having given up, look back at their land, their eyes filled with regret. They realize that, with just a little more perseverance, perhaps those seeds would have had a chance to live. But now the soil was barren, and the seeds had lost their life. They left, carrying a sense of regret in their hearts. But there are Still, some people who stay behind, they do not give up. They keep watering, keep nurturing, and keep believing that those seeds still have hope. And now, I suddenly understand something. This is not just an ordinary field. This is a challenge, a lesson, and I start to wonder, who am I among them? At this moment, the scenery began to change once again. Before my eyes, two roads gradually appeared, as if reality were splitting in two. I saw the first road, wide but desolate. The land was cracked and barren with not a single green tree in sight. Only dry, withered trunks stood, isolated in the bleak scenery. On that road, I saw people who had given up. They walked slowly, their heads bowed with empty expressions. No one said a word, just the sound of footsteps quietly on the dry ground. I realized they were the farmers who had left the fields. On their faces there was no anger, nor was there outrage. There was only regret, a smoldering sadness, as if they realized something, but it was too late. Then, a strong wind rose. This wind was not just any wind, it was like an invisible whirlwind, sweeping them up. I saw them trying to cling to the ground, desperately grabbing at anything, but there was nothing to hold on to. In the blink of an eye, they were swept into the darkness at the end of the road. Not a scream, not a cry for help. They disappeared, as if they had never existed. I shuddered. My heart tightened when I realized that this path is not just for the farmers in that field. It's for anyone who gives up faith, quits in the face of challenges, and doesn't persevere to the end. I turned to the other path. It was a completely different way. It was smaller, narrower, but full of life. On both sides of the road, vibrant trees stretched tall, their leaves rustling in the gentle breeze. The fresh, cool air carries a pleasant aroma that fills the surroundings. The scent of moist earth, of grass and trees after the rain, and of a harvest soon to ripen. On that road, I saw the farmers who had stayed behind. They were still working diligently, despite having been disappointed many times. They continued to sow the seeds, water, and till the soil, even though they did not see immediate results. I looked at them, my heart full of admiration. They had persevered, they had believed. Then, on the 8th time they returned to the field, a miracle happened. The ground gently shook. Tiny green sprouts began to emerge, small but full of life. In the blink of an eye, the trees reached high, their canopies spreading wide. The wheat ears blossomed, full of grains, glittering golden under the brilliant light. The entire field became radiant. I have never seen a scene as beautiful as that. The farmers broke down in tears, but those were not tears of sorrow. They were tears of joy, of gratitude. They looked at each other, held hands, and rejoiced together at the bountiful harvest. Suddenly I understood. Only those who persist until the end can reap the rewards, and only those who do not give up midway can witness the miracles. Then I heard a voice, booming, warm, yet full of authority. "You have seen, now remember." I was startled and turned towards the sound. In front of me, a brilliant light began to radiate. In the golden field, a majestic figure appears. It is Jesus Christ. He stands there, his face brighter than the sun, his eyes filled with love, but also with power. He raised his hand, and another vision opened before me. I saw the farmers, those who had not given up, who had persevered through the trials. They are returning to their field, but this time something is different. They walk with joy and confidence, and then the miracle begins to happen. In August, just in the 8th time since their return, a gigantic wheat storage appeared amidst the fields. The bags of wheat were full, shimmering golden under the bright light. No one was lacking. No one was left behind. Jesus said, "This is the reward for those who are faithful." They did not give up, and now they will receive eternal blessings. I look at the farmers. They wear pristine white shirts, their faces bright and filled with joy and peace. There are no signs of fatigue, no traces of doubt. They have received grace. I suddenly understood that wheat is not only food, but also a symbol of faith. Whoever holds on to their faith will never be in want, for God grants them abundance, not only in material things, but also in eternal life. But then, the vision is not yet over. Suddenly, the bright light faded, giving way to a scene that was completely opposite. I saw a barren, cracked land under the scorching heat. No wheat stalks grew, only the chilly winds swept through, carrying the breath of desolation. Also, in that August, the farmers who once gave up now stand in that place. Their faces are weighed down by disappointment and anguish. They realize their mistake. Tears rolled down their cheeks, but no one came to wipe them dry. They looked toward the golden field in the distance, where the diligent were enjoying their reward. But the distance between them was endless. They tried to step toward the light, but they couldn't. An invisible wall stood in their way. The sounds of weeping echoed, mingling with the stillness of the air. They understood that the opportunity had slipped away. The bountiful August had arrived, but they had nothing to harvest. Jesus looked at me with eyes full of compassion, but also with seriousness. Those who do not hold steadfast in their faith will have to face the consequences. They are not abandoned, but they have chosen this path for themselves. I bowed my head, my heart heavy. Choices are never easy, but I understand. Faith is not just words, but a steadfast perseverance to the end. Then I looked up and saw Jesus standing in the golden wheat field, his light spreading everywhere, more brilliant than the sun. His face is gentle, yet also serious, radiating an indescribable power. His voice resonated, echoing like a grand symphony throughout the space. Do not lose heart when you have not yet seen the result, for my timing is not your timing. I feel those words piercing my soul, like a sacred fire burning away all doubts and hesitations. Those who persevere from January to August will receive a great reward. The faithful farmers knelt down, their tears shining with joy. They understood that every drop of sweat, every moment of patience had not been in vain. Jesus stretched out his hands toward them, and I saw the light from his hands spreading, soaking deep into their souls, granting them a new strength, a joy that nothing could shake. I also knelt down, my heart filled with reverence and gratitude. I understand that true faith does not lie in what our eyes can see, but in the perseverance and trust in God, even when the harvest is not yet visible. Then Jesus turned his serious gaze toward those who had given up, those who had left before seeing the seeds sprout. His voice echoed like thunder, but was also filled with sorrow. The one who wavers, whose heart is unsteady, will never see the due harvest. Those people bowed their heads, their faces clearly showing regret. They once had the opportunity, they were once called upon, but they lacked perseverance, and now it is too late. August will be the month to distinguish who belongs to me and who is weak-hearted. Suddenly, I noticed a change in the field. A strong wind rose, blowing away the shallow-rooted grass. The field seems to self-purify, retaining the strong plants and eliminating the wilted ones. Jesus turned to me, his gaze filled with encouragement, yet bearing a heavy responsibility. He said, "In August 2025, there will be a purification of human faith. Those who truly follow me will remain unwavering, but those whose faith only stands in easy times will be scattered like dust in the wind." My heartbeat quickened. This wasn't just a prophecy, it felt like a direct warning. I sensed God's presence as he touched my shoulder, and an overwhelming surge of strength filled my soul. His expression was solemn as he said, "Your mission isn't complete. Return and warn everyone to prepare their faith." Then, as Jesus placed his hand on my forehead, a comforting warmth spread through my entire body. Strength coursed through every part of me, my veins, my bones. The pain I had carried simply dissolved, vanishing like fog under the morning sun. The lines of age on my face seemed to fade away, and my weary, tired eyes were suddenly alive, vibrant as if they had been renewed. I took a deep breath, feeling a vitality I hadn't felt in years. I knew this wasn't just physical healing, but also a profound restoration of my spirit. Jesus looked at me with a gaze that was both tender and commanding. His words, spoken with power, ignited something deep within my soul, a flame that would never die. He said, "Share this with the world." I nodded, my heart burning with a newfound determination. I knew I couldn't keep this experience to myself. I had to speak out. I had to warn and encourage those struggling in their faith. Jesus continued, "Tell them that faith isn't a fleeting emotion, but a lifelong journey that demands perseverance. Faith isn't a spark that flares and fades, but a steady light that must be nurtured and protected over the years. Those who Abandon the journey too soon will never see the abundant harvest, but those who endure to the end will receive a reward beyond imagination. As he finished speaking, a gentle breeze swept through, and I felt myself being drawn back to this world, carrying a mission I knew I had to fulfill. In the cold, sterile emergency room, nearly 2 hours had passed since the doctor had declared my death. The nurses had left, and the machines around me were silent, no longer tracking my heartbeat. But then, in the stillness of that moment, something extraordinary happened. I took a deep breath. My fingers stirred ever so slightly. My eyelids fluttered briefly before I suddenly bolted upright, as though waking from the depths of a long slumber. Gasps echoed through the room, and a nurse dropped a stack of papers she had been holding. "Impossible," someone muttered. "He's been dead for nearly 2 hours." A doctor hurried to my side, checking my pulse and heartbeat with urgency. Then, turning to his colleague with a stunned expression, said, "His heart, it's beating strongly, as if it never stopped. And look, his wounds and previous illnesses are gone." I could feel it too, a surge of energy coursing through my body. There was no more pain, no lingering weakness. Instead, I felt a vitality I hadn't experienced in years. Soon, word of my astonishing recovery spread through the hospital like wildfire. Staff and patients gathered around, their eyes filled with a mix of awe and fear. "This is a miracle," someone whispered. "This must be the work of God." An elder doctor, someone regarded as an authority in the field, shook his head in disbelief. "There's no medical explanation for this," he said. He was gone. I confirmed it myself. And now, he's alive, perfectly healthy. As I looked at their shocked faces, I smiled. I knew exactly what had happened. I had been healed by God. I had been brought back, and with that came a clear purpose, one that no one could dispute. Before long, my son Daniel arrived after hearing the news. His face showed nothing but confusion and disbelief. Daniel, a man deeply immersed in his fast-paced finance career, spent his days chasing profits, deadlines, and endless meetings. To him, faith was something trivial, just a set of tales for the naive. But now, faced with the sight of me, his father who had been declared dead but was now standing before him alive, vibrant and healthy, he was at a loss for words. "Father," Daniel stammered, his voice shaky. I don't understand this." My gaze softened as I looked at my son, filled with love and compassion. "I was once like you," I said calmly, "caught up in the rush of life, forgetting what truly matters. But my child, God is real. He's waiting for you." Daniel fell silent, his head shaking slightly as if struggling to process what he was seeing and hearing. "I don't know what to believe anymore," he whispered, his voice barely audible. I didn't push him to accept the truth immediately. This was a journey he had to take at his own pace. I've always believed that faith is a journey, something deeply personal, not something that should be forced. With a gentle smile, I placed my hand on his shoulder and said one simple thing: "Seek, my son. When you truly seek, you will find." As Daniel bowed his head, I caught a glimpse of something in his eyes, a faint tremble, a small spark of contemplation. Maybe, just maybe, a seed had been planted. I can't keep my story to myself. It's not a fleeting dream or some hazy illusion. It's a vivid, life-altering reality that I've lived and feel called to share. My mission began while I was still confined to a hospital bed. I started telling my story to the other patients around me. At first, they listened with mild curiosity, but as I kept speaking, something began to shift. Their expressions changed. Some were so deeply moved that they cried. Others lowered their heads in silence, as if reconnecting with a long-lost prayer. I remember an elderly woman, her tear-filled eyes clouded by emotion, who took my hand and whispered, "It's been so many years since I felt that God still cares for me. But hearing your story helped me realize He's never left my side." A middle-aged man, once firm in his faith but worn down by life's challenges, quietly bowed his head. His voice, thick with emotion, carried a confession. "You've reminded me of something I once believed in, but lost along the way. Maybe it's time for me to return to Him." To those of you listening now, I want to leave you with this. Don't lose heart if you don't see immediate results. Keep going. Stay steadfast, and in time, Your perseverance will be rewarded in ways you never imagined.